Whoa, my hands are doing this. Yep, I don't like this controller. So even back in the early days of scientists pissing around and making games on supercomputers instead of curing diseases, they had to create ways to play the games, like with the tried and true knob and button combo used for Tennis for Two in 1958. Yep, I don't like this controller. When arcade machines hit the scene, developers had to design the controls for each of their games, and thus their imagination wasn't compromised by limiting control methods. They could create whatever control method would suit their game best. Joysticks, trackballs, knobs, buttons, steering wheels. Each arcade machine was different from the last in terms of controls. Yep, I don't like this controller. Developers were used to having free range with how to control their games in the arcade. How do you create a controller that can be a jack of all trades, one that can work with all, or at the very least, a lot of the games released at the time? Atari said f it and gave us a button and a stick. Yep, I don't like this controller. The Atari 2600 was the first major success in terms of home video game consoles with interchangeable cartridges. The first video game console ever, 1972's Magnavox Odyssey, sure did have a controller alright. Yep, I don't like this controller. The Fairchild Channel F predated the 2600 by a year, releasing in 1976, and has you holding a Snickers bar to control games. Yep, I don't like this controller. After the 2600, controllers went through this ugly phase for a while, and it was all because a controller designer went home for the weekend, looked at his phone, and said, "Yep, I don't like this controller." Why? Yeah, the Intellivision, ColecoVision, even Atari themselves with the Atari 5200 all followed the hot trend of putting a number pad on the controller. Let me ask you this, in what dimension do games this simple need more than 9 buttons? Many games came with overlays to put on the controller so you know what each button does, but that just kind of forces you to constantly look at the controller to know what to press, with or without the overlays. Yep, I don't like this controller. Well, after all that flopped, we then make our way to the Nintendo Entertainment System, a true innovation for controllers, breaking away from the joystick to form something that was more compact and easier to hold. Yep, I don't like this controller. The Vectrex in 1982 had a similar form factor for its controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. Now I know, first thing many people probably said when they saw this cross on the controller was, "Yep, I don't like this controller." Nintendo used the D-pad beforehand on one of their Game & Watch handhelds. Yep, I don't like this controller. The NES Advantage is the controller you'd never let your daughter go to prom with. Yep, I don't like this controller. Well, the NES Max may be for you, featuring a new grippable design, the turbo buttons of the Advantage alongside something called the Cycloid, a bit of a precursor to the 3DS Circle Pad. Yep, I don't like this controller. Now, with the introduction of the NES Top Loader, Nintendo redesigned the standard NES controller, nicknamed the Dogbone. Yep, I don't like this controller. Well, since the original NES controller worked, many simply tried to copy it. The Sega Master System. Yep, I don't like this controller. And TurboGrafx 16. Yep, I don't like this controller. Atari decided to barge into the party with their 7800 controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. And I'm pretty sure everybody stared at them until they released this instead. Yep, I don't like this controller. Of course, Sega had to do something different with the Sega Master System's follow-up, so they brought out this 3-buttoned hunk. Yep, I don't like this controller. So Sega crammed some more in with the introduction of the 6-button controllers. Shove your hand between the couch cushions and you'll find various Sega Genesis controllers. Yep, I don't like this controller. The SNES controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. Weirdly enough, with the release of the Super Nintendo Classic Edition in 2017, and I gotta say, I don't like this controller. Atari, just go home. Yep, I don't like this controller. After that bust, Sony created their own console based on their knowledge from working with Nintendo, which is pretty obvious looking at the controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. However, the PlayStation controller finally became a man with the DualShock. Look at the size of these things. Yep, I don't like this controller. Here's the Nintendo 64 controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. Moving on, the Sega Saturn controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. But Sega also introduced the 3D control pad for a few games, specifically Nights into Dreams. Yep, I don't like this controller. And this controller leads us into its immediate successor on Sega's last home console, the Sega Dreamcast controller. Yep, I like this controller. Now, is this controller as bad as the Nintendo 64's? Yep, but that! PlayStation's back, baby, with the PlayStation 2's all-new DualShock 2. Yep, I don't like this controller. Now, moving past that, we have the introduction of the Xbox brand, and with it, holy shit. Yep, I like this controller. This controller does get a number of things right. Number 1. Giant f***ing Xbox logo. Microsoft designed a smaller controller for the Japanese market that made its way over to the States later down the line, and yep, I don't like this controller. After Nintendo wouldn't stop laughing for 5 years straight, they really cleaned up their act with the GameCube controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. That's where the Wavebird comes in, a wireless variant of the controller. Yep, I don't like this controller. Wireless was truly the next step for controllers. We make our way to the Xbox 360, which has one of the most acclaimed controllers of all time. Yep, I don't like the D-pad. Next up, the PS3 controller. Jesus Christ, guys, it's been over 10 years at this point, and you still haven't moved on?
Yep, I don't like this controller.
To be fair, Sony was set to go with an all-new design for the PS3 standard controller. Yep, I like this controller. Now everything was going pretty garbage with controllers at this point. The 360 really hit it out of the park, the PS3 was going with a time-tested design, and Nintendo... Yep, I don't like this controller. But if you're more into the traditional side of things, might I suggest the Wii Classic controllers? Yep, I don't like this controller.
You call these triggers?
Here's the Classic Controller Pro. Yep, I don't like this controller. Nintendo then put the Wii Remote in Photoshop, gave it a little of this, a little of that, popped a screen in the middle, and blam. Wii U gamepad. Yep, I don't like this controller. Like with the Wii Remote, if you're not into all of this, Nintendo offered a Pro Controller, and get ready Wii U Pro Controller Defense Force, I love this controller. Mashed potatoes. PS4 controller actually switched some things up compared to the PlayStation controllers of the past. There's this light bar, which just feels like an excuse for this controller to have shitty battery life. I don't like this controller. The Xbox One controller feels a bit like more of the same from the 360 controller, but with random tweaks and changes that feel both better and worse. Yep, I don't like this controller. That finally brings us to the Nintendo Switch's supply of controllers, the Joy-Con, the controllers that come packed in with the console. Yep, I don't like this controller. The Switch Pro controller. This controller. This thing is truly nonsense, and that is a basic history and review of most of the major video game controllers. We've gone through a lot, and while not all of it has been great, it's all led to where we are now. Jesus. Well, let me know what your favorite or least favorite game controllers are, and if you'd excuse me, I don't like this controller.